like the TV work that I did out here in the 70s. Basically, I went on a lot of auditions to meet casting directors and whatnot. And every once in a while, something would click. Like I clicked with Starsky and Hutch, and I just come back from doing Going South with Jack Nicholson directing it, and I got to play I can't remember what the character was, but he had a newsstand, and it was just a day's work, but it was a lot of fun, and it was a big thing for me to do a Starsky and Hutch. I also did in the 60s, I did a play in Philadelphia with Judd Hirsch. And when I came out here in the 70s, Judd Hirsch, I believe, had a TV show called Del Vecchio. And he asked for them to see me for a part of a guy named Beansy Marat. Beansy Marat was a, safecracker. And I'll never forget the experience. That was like quite an experience in that show. They were all very, very fast. I mean, everything you did was very, very economical and fast. And, no matter what the director wanted, the director of photography was really the one who dictated everything, And I remember, guy saying, "Well, you're going to come forward. We're gonna dolly back. We're gonna, and then you're going to go over and then duck back, and the storefront blows up." And we rehearsed it, and then the next thing you know, the cameraman said, "Okay, put it on sticks right here, pan them in and out." That was it. The thing blew up and everything. It was a lot of fun. Anyway, I remember Beansy Marat's demise was in a dumpster. He fell off he was chased and fell into a dumpster. Then I got a part on a policewoman. That was really cool.
What did you play on that?
I think it was I always played like a kind of a shyster, like a kind of a bad guy, crook of some kind, and in those movies. But I got to work with Angie Dickinson. That was really fun. And so I guess then after that came Taxi with Joel Thurm giving me this thing, going in, doing the thing. And then it was like a love fest. Taxi was like the best 5 years of my life up until the last 6 years of my life.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the atmosphere on the set of Taxi.
First of all, it was a 4-camera show, 3-camera show, they called it. We used 4 cameras most of the time. It was all blocked in front of a live audience. And it was great because I had the experience of being in the theater, and then now you come out here and you're playing off the audience, you're playing off of each other. You had Tony Danza was like so much fun to work with, and Judd was like just a pro. Jeff was great, a lot of fun. Jeff Conaway, sorry that he's not with us any longer, and Andy Kaufman, of course, who is not with us. Also, Andy was off the wall, and like just the way he was in the show, he was that way in real life. There was never a line like, oh, now he's in character, now he's not. He was always the same. So that was that experience with us. And Mary Lou Henner, the sweetest girl you ever want to see, and like our barometer for when it was not cold enough in the studio. Because if she walked in a sweater and her nipples weren't standing up, you knew you had to make it colder. That was like the big thing. Colder! And we had to keep it cold so that the audience would laugh. And then, of course, we added, Christopher Lloyd to the show. The second year, he came on playing Reverend Jim. He was marrying Andy Kaufman. and to a hooker. We called it Paper Marriage was the show. And Andy had to marry this woman so he could stay in the country because we didn't want to lose Andy. And I'll never forget, he wrote the, Andy was supposed to have written the things the priest was supposed to say to them. They were written by probably Jim Brooks or Weinberger. But anyway, Reverend Jim says to the woman, I'll never forget this. It was yesterday. You'll always be a tart to me. And Andy goes, part of me. He said, oh yeah, you'll always be part of me. It was one of my favorites. I got to play the violin in that show.
Was that something you did?
No, I didn't. I learned how to play the violin when I was going south. I tried to play a little violin. I took some lessons and I took a couple of records and played it. One of the funniest things that happened with Taxi was, tabloid wise, they got a publicity picture of me with the violin, and somebody in the Inquirer wrote this great piece about how I gave up wanting to be a virtuoso violinist to be on a television show. And I used to practice 4 or 5 hours a day. I lived my whole life for the violin, and I gave it up for TV,
Right.
And it was a picture of me standing there in my Louis outfit, with the violin looking like at Andy. And about a week later, my mother calls me up. This is the mother that I was talking about, my only mother. She calls me up and she gets me on the phone. I say, hey, how you doing, Ma? She says, I didn't know you wanted to play the violin. Hey, you gave it up to be on television? I said, Mom, what are you talking about? She said, it says here in the paper that you wanted to be a virtuoso violinist. You would have been in Carnegie Hall. You gave it up to be on television. I said, Ma, how long did I live in your house? Did you ever see me with a violin? Is it possible that these people made this story up? So,
talk about her being on Taxi.
Well, they said to me one day they said they wanted to do Louis' mother. And I said, fine. And they had met my mom because we were on a year or so already. She'd been out several times, always had her out. And they said, we want your mother to play play Louis' mother. I said, fine, but don't look at me, don't ask me, because I'm not my mother's keeper. I don't rule my mother. You call her up. They put her on speaker. It was hysterical. Hi, this is Jim Brooks and Ed Weinberger, and Danny's here, and we wanted to ask you a question. What do you want? We want to know if you'll play Louis' mother on the show. We won't write a big part. We'll make it easy for you. She cuts off Weinberger right there, and she goes, I can do dialogue. Right? So they said, fine. So we'll, what do you need for the thing? Pay me. Let's not get paid. He says, okay, we're going to pay you top of the show, whatever it was. We'll send you a car. We'll fly you out first class. Is there anything else you need? And she says, yes, 2 things. I want a television in my dressing room so I can watch my stories. She had to watch the soap operas in the afternoon. She could not miss them. And I would like a bottle of blackberry brandy. That's it. Those are the perks.
That's perfect.
Yeah, and she got them, and it was great. And she did the first show, which was a lot of fun. And then they hired her again. They wanted her to do another one. She came back and did Louis' Mom Marries a Japanese Guy. Okay. I can't remember the exact title of the show, but it was that. And it was so much fun having her there. Because she does smoke in the show. She smokes like a chimney. She was the only one smoking. Everybody would run out and have a cigarette. She'd just walk on the stage, say hello to the firemen. Hi, how you doing?
That's amazing. Another really important woman in your life was
Yes.
on the show as well. So talk about Rhea Perlman.
Oh, Rhea. Well, Rhea and I, we met in 1970, around there. And I was doing an off-Broadway show, and she came to see it, and we went out, and that was it. And we got together, and back in the day, we started living together, and 10 years later, we were out here in California, and I was doing Taxi, and she was always there. She was doing some plays, like off in L.A., like little theaters, some plays. She was with Lee Wilkoff doing a play called Pennant Fever, and I invited everybody. And the Charles brothers came, and they saw her in the play, and they wanted her to play Carla in the show. And it was like a great thing because we overlapped about a year. And, of course, they had her she did a couple of Taxis where she played the nice girl. And she was in the first show on television that ever said, "Holy crap." Okay, now this is how sick the country is, okay? The standards and practices people. At that time, when we were doing that show, Louie and the Nice Girl, you could say holy, and you could say crap, but you couldn't say holy crap, right? On television. This is how far we've come. Like with, you could say almost anything on television now, but still, I mean, we're loosening up a little bit, but holy crap. Because she says to me, she says, everybody tells me to leave you, Louie. My mother, my father, your friends, the doorman, everybody says I shouldn't. I said, well, why are you with me? She says, you touch me. And I say, holy crap. And that was the first time, and I don't know how they got it through. I guess they just got it through, but it was in the show. Anyway, we did those few shows, Louie and the Nice Girl, and then she did, and we decided to have kids. And the kind of funny thing is that she already had 4 kids as Carla when they started the show. But she got knocked up 3 times in a row while she's doing the show by me. So, I mean, that's kind of a crude way to put it, but I'm the father of her children. And so at the end of that run, they were on 11 years. Cheers. She had 7 kids. 4 of them that she already had from all the different husbands, and 3 of them from me. Every year she was pregnant on that show. She didn't want to miss the show. She loved the show. She had a great time on Cheers. It was a lot of fun, too. But she wanted to have the babies. So we had to time it out. Both of us had to go, well, okay, we'll back time it. When are you on hiatus? February. First baby was born in March 11th. Just made it, right? But same thing. Going to have another baby. March 25th, Gracie was born. Lucy was on the 11th. Gracie was on the 25th. And then Jake just showed up in October, right in the middle of the season. So that was like a surprise.
So how did you feel about Louie having this kind of softer side? Did you?
Oh, I love that. Oh, I love that. I love the idea of having a nugget of something down below. Well, Louie's a lot of front. There was a lot of front to Louie. I mean, he was like a tough guy, a Napoleonic kind of figure, very, very stern and, order you around. If he had seniority of any kind or any kind of elevated position in the company, you were dog shit. I mean, there was no two ways about it. And he'd let you know right away and put you in your place. So that there was no, what do you want? Every character wants something, right? Everybody wants something. Somebody wants to feel superior, right? Somebody wants to feel like they're, in control. They are the guy, Somebody wants a job. Somebody wants to make money and make a living. That's the problem. If you want to make a living and you got a boss who feels like he wants to be superior or above you in any way, even if he's not intellectually, you're going to have a tough time. Louis made it tough on these guys. Banta, the only fighter Louis ever met who had a cauliflower back.
So what were Louis' redeeming qualities?
That's a hard one. I think Louis genuinely loved really loved Latka. I think he really dug all the people in the garage. I think he had no family. I mean, if a guy's going to act that way, the only way he could have a family is if, he kind of corralled them. It was like the thing with him and Daytona Dave and where the three guys, the two guys he meets and has at his party. They're the only two guys that come to his party. And Judd says, "Where did you meet these guys?" And Louis says, "Well, we were the last three guys left watching a heart attack." He's got no friends. And I felt sorry for him a little bit, in that respect. But, he wanted to keep up, his. I think the best thing that ever happened to him was Carla. I mean, not Carla. She was the nice girl. Zena, right. And you could say that on the screen and also off the screen, because it's like, I'm very fortunate to have my wife and the wonderful kids I have.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, everybody the archive has interviewed that's worked with you says you're the nicest guy and you were just a joy to work with on Taxi. So how did you balance, was it fun for you to kind of get to live out this angry side?
Oh, no. It's not, Louis he wasn't really angry as much as gleeful. He was gleeful. Everything he did was with glee, with like, if I say to you, whatever. I mean, if I make fun of you or if I put you down, right? The only person that ever could get back at me was Judd, because he's the only person who didn't care about being anything else but a cab driver. And he knew that I would never take his privileges away from him, even though sometimes he didn't act it. He was a nice guy. He was the hub, and Louis was the cog. So we had fun doing the show. We would go to work on a Monday. This is the greatest schedule in the history of the world. You go to work on a Monday and you read through the script, and you go home. You come back on Tuesday. They've made some changes. You do a run-through, just a little walkthrough with the books, and you go home. And they stay all night and write till Wednesday. You come to work on Wednesday. Always come to work what time? 10 o'clock in the morning. What is this? It's like a picnic. And you're doing something you love. And you're charging off till Friday night when you're going to have 300 people out there right in the palm of your hand. Because they're writing, they never let you down. Never. You always, if something wasn't working and you weren't getting there or it wasn't getting there, it was Brooks, Weinberg, or Stan Daniels, the Charles brothers, the people who were doing the show. They would work on it and never let the actors down. So you always felt like that kind of like incredible cement that there's a security to that. And I feel the same way now. I'm doing Sunny. Now, I've been doing Sunny for 6 years. It's our 7th season going to come up. Why go back on television again? Why? Why? You know, I mean, you do movies, you do this, you do that, you're directing, you blah, 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 blah. You know, I met this guy, John Landgraf, when I had my company, Jersey Television. And we did a couple of shows together. But more than just doing a couple of shows together, we became close. You know, we go to the movies together, we see stuff. He's got 3 kids, I got the 3 kids, blah, 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 blah. He sends me a few shows of this thing that he bought called It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. What do you think of this? Because he's now working at FX. My company, I've folded up. And he says, what do you think of this? And I say, Rhea and I and the kids all loved it. We loved everybody on it. We loved the sense of humor. We loved the blah, 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 blah. So fine. 6 months later, out of the blue, they want to add a character. Now, if people were telling me back in 78 not to go on television, right now they're telling me, everybody's saying, why do you want to do this? This cable station, it's like, you know, FX, it's like, and these people are on, you know, they're just kids and they don't know, you know, what do you know, why would you want to do that? And I just thought the total opposite. I met them. I liked the show. I said, if they write a character that's organic and that is going to be fun and I can, you know, have a license to do anything I want, basically, Frank Reynolds. I didn't know that until they came up with the character, right? It's like a guy who's really 66 years old who all of a sudden gets a chance to hang around with, you know, people half his age and do all kinds of crazy stuff. And by the way, doesn't have to work another day in his life. He could do anything he wants, Frank Reynolds. He could go sit under a tree if he wants, go fishing, go on hikes, go traveling, do anything he wants, right? But he wants to be in the middle of the fray of it. He wants to be inside the nitty-gritty of, like, dilemmas, you know? And they're like I Love Lucy. Like Rob McElhaney and well, let's call them by their character names, you know, Mac and Dennis and Sweet D and Charlie. I mean, what's the difference between finding a baby in a dumpster and, you know, hiding in somebody's trunk in the middle of, like, you know, it winds up on stage at Ricky Ricardo's club? It's the same thing. She gets backed up by a piece of bread because she puts too much yeast in it. And these guys are doing, you know, becoming crack addicts, you know. It's like, it's different era, it's different time, you know. Where Mac is banging a tranny, who, by the way, is now the the mother of Deandra's surrogate baby. She had the operation. She's got a husband and everything. Don't ask me how it works, but they seem to be in love. And so I go back on, like, you know, I'm in my, you know, late 50s, and I jump back in a show on television that's like gangbusters. And every single day I get up in the morning to go to work. I can't wait to get there.
How is that? How does that energy and that kind of young, vibrant cast compare with your experience on Taxi? Do you see parallels?
Well, no. I mean, it's a totally different thing because the Taxi was an element of, like, you know, well, we had 3 cameras and an audience. Here we have 3 cameras and no audience. We shoot 1 show a week in Taxi. Like, we start on a Monday, we shoot it on a Friday night. With Sonny, we do a show every 3 days. Like, we'll do pieces of shows, but if you add it all up, the page count, this year, I think, even 2.8 days we did a show. And it's like, you're here, you're there, you're here, you're there. Oh, wait a minute, I got the wrong costume on. Wait a minute, I'm in the wrong set. Wait a minute, it's all like this incredible, frenetic, wonderful energy. It's creative and improvisation and just, and I'm with people who are, that thing about it, you hang around with people who, tell me who you hang around with, I'll tell you who you are. That's what my father used to say. I mean, if you're going to wind up hanging around with a bunch of octogenarians in a boathouse, hey, you're going to be there. That's what you're going to do. Maybe I'll hit some golf balls. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got people who are like flying by the seat of their pants, doing like incredible work, funny, damn stuff.
And how much input do you have on Frank?
Anything I want to do, I do. I mean, like, they write it.
And you said there's a lot of improv.
There's a lot of, well, yeah, gotta have improv. Because you can't, like, just, because their minds are going like a mile a minute. Caitlin is like, off the charts. Charlie, forget about it. He's like in another on another planet. And Rob and Dennis are the same way. Dennis is so full of himself, he can't, like, walk and talk at the same time. Mac is like, just like, he wants to get into anything. Any kind of scheme. He's like Lucille Ball. Rob McElhaney is like, I mean, and if Fred Mertz had a lot of money and was a little bit more energetic, maybe you'd say that that's what I would be. But it's not the same. It's that whole stuff breaks down right there, because I don't have to worry about a penny, right? They could say to me, we need a telescope because the Hubble we got to get out into space or something. I could figure out a way to finance that because I always got a guy. I got a guy with the glass. I got a guy with the rocket fuel. I know the guy who, like, has the shipments of whatever you need. I know him. I've dealt with him because when I was in Vietnam with the sweatshops. I know all these guys. All these guys who were in the Vietnam War are all connected. You think they're not connected? You say to me, oh, go, come on. I mean, I wouldn't do anything wrong. I don't want to hurt anybody. Frank does not want to hurt anybody. But that stuff goes on right now. In our country right now that there are people making money off the poppy fields of Afghanistan. There's no two ways about it. There are people making money. I mean, we got the biggest drug problem in the world. What do you think? The CIA and the government doesn't know all that crap is coming in and out? Somebody's in there. Somebody's making money.
So
I'm not saying that Frank is involved in any of that stuff. I'm just saying that there are people who you can call to get just about anything. And in our case, it's usually like stuff like, little things. Like, we know how to get into the sewer, Charlie and I, without anybody finding us. We could go every day into the sewer. I'll bet there's a lot of people who would like to go and can't. Because first, they don't know how to get in. Second, they don't know who to grease. You got to grease somebody. You want to get in the sewer. We go in the sewer. You find a lot of things down the sewer. You got to ball your clothes up. You have to be naked in the sewer because you don't want to get too, you got to keep your clothes dry. A lot of times a wave will come in the water and you have to know how to deflect, things, turds, whatever's coming down the pike, And we are absolutely better men for it because I'm telling you, like, did you ever read that book, Guns, Steel, and Germs? Guns, Germs, and Steel? It's by Jared Diamond. It's a great book, I mean, what do you think? The Spaniards, they slept with their animals. That's how come they didn't get infected with all these diseases. See? You pussyfoot around, you wind up susceptible to anything. Charlie and I are like rocks. Come on, bring the bubonic plague on. We'll kick its ass. Maybe it's the green tea talking.
Might be.
Maybe.
Fired you up.
Okay.
Talk a little bit about Frank and Charlie, because they're kind of becoming one of those classic TV duos.
Well, we do have a good time working together. Charlie Day is, without a doubt, one of the funniest people on television today. And he's one of the genuinely nicest people you ever want to meet. And giving and inventive. And, we like doing a lot of physical stuff together, Charlie and I. We're kind of like, he's a little taller than I am. It's like we're in the. I love Charlie's energy. It's like really great. We live together. See, Charlie was the one who really took me in. Dennis wouldn't take me in. He's my son, or supposed to be, till we found out that whore was banging everybody in town. But he's my son. She's my daughter, that bitch. You think she would take me in? No. Charlie took me in. Mac, I wouldn't want to live with because, well, he lives with Dennis, and who knows what goes on there. I mean, he's into trannies, he's into this, he's into that. It's not my style. I like a little Mardi Gras every once in a while, but I'm not going to go like, totally, in the wrong door. Anyway, so Charlie opened himself up to me, and we get along on a lot of levels. We play night crawlers together. We have a great time doing that. We do that almost every night. We go down under the bridge. We have friends down under the bridge where we find things. We find all kinds of things. People throw stuff out that is not. I mean, you can find like cans of sardines, tuna. You can get all kinds of. That's what we like to eat: tuna and fish and stuff, sardines. Tuna stays around forever. Crabs. We get crabs down there, and the stuff that's been laying there. The tastiest crabs are the ones that have been laying in the sun for a while because they got all the bacteria growing in them. It's like you smell your body, your own body. It's always better to smell your own body after you haven't taken a shower for a day or two. Right?
Sure.
So there you go.
Speaking of your
it's
body.
It's like cheese, right? Cheese kind of gets like ripe. And that's the thing. I mean, you're going to put your face in a goat's ass. You're going to do it like after you don't want the goat just coming out of the water. Yeah, what?
Let's talk about your nude scene, your infamous nude scene in the Christmas episode.
Well,
what did you think when you saw that in the script?
I loved it. I thought it was really, the thing about it is I was not ready for a couple things. First of all, you read it in the script, it's one thing. Frank comes out from behind a couch nude, it was. I said, no, I want to come right out, like, out of the leather, like the birth scene. I want to be born. I want that canal right there. That couch is like a big vagina, right? I'm going through the birth canal, right? And the sweat is all the stuff, in the amniotic fluid and whatever. I mean, I wish that I could have had that couch's water break a little bit first. Anyway, that's another thing. The whole idea is that I read it and it says naked. And I go, oh, well, we're really pushing the envelope here. This is great. And I'm like, do a nude scene. Fine with it. You don't realize you got like, it's at a Christmas party. You say, okay, I can take my clothes off in front of the crew. We've known these guys for like a long time. We're all friends. And all of a sudden, I got like 50 people like staring at you, like, and I go, oh my God, this is like background actors are going to be looking at me, coming out of the thing. I go, okay. So anyway, you can't go totally naked. It's against the rules of AFTRA. So you got to take this little pouch, depending on how big you need, and you stick your balls and cock in the pouch, and you pull the string, and you tie it up. So it's like a bag of balls and dick. It's like really crazy, right? And it's just hanging there in between your legs. I mean, it's like that's more embarrassing than just letting your schlong hang out, right? You got this little pouch of balls there. Anyway, we go back, we do the thing. They grease me up. That was a good part of it. makeup girls greasing me up. That was really nice. And I wait back there and come out. And I break through. They scored it a little bit. And on cue, I come out. You see, it got real hot in there. I take my clothes off. I was in the couch, and the leather couch was really hot. And I come out, and it's all on film. You can see it any time. You go to YouTube and see it. There's one really funny thing that, like, Caitlin had a line. She had the line. She's the first line. And I'm going, hot, 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 hot. Had to get out. Hot, hot, hot. And her line is something, and then I say something, and then Dennis says something. But she never says her line. And I'm going, hot, hot, hot. And she's like, I look up at her, and she's like this. She's like, and I go, it's your line. It's my line. Oh, my God. So if you go on, you can see that on anytime you want on TV. And they put a little wreath over my ass, but there's probably it's somewhere exists naked. The weird thing was that I had to come. I did it a few times. I had to come out a few times. Do it 2 or 3 times, and I got better at it each time. It was like greased halibut coming out like on the just came like out on the thing, just totally naked, and make that sound. And the way Caitlin tells the story is that she had to look down at it all the time, and I had to turn around to get up. So every single take, my ass was in her face. It was like really horrible. I didn't know how else to turn around. I had to do it that way, get off the couch. I mean, I would have spared her that, but I couldn't. So Glenn, I didn't give a shit about. Flash him anytime.
So obviously you're reaching a whole new audience of people with this show, and you had, I'm sure, quite an interesting reaction from fans back on Taxi Days. So throughout your career, how do people respond to you, and what do they think of your characters?
Well, a lot of time, it is a generational thing. It's like very much so. Like, so now it's like all the young kids are into It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. They remember Taxi vaguely, and they were all just little tiny tots when Taxi was going on. And so and everybody's sensibilities change over the years. So the fact that Louis was really a tough guy to everybody and made him feel bad in those days, that was a big thing. Louis was strutting his stuff, and he wanted to bang Nardo, and that was the big thing. He wasn't going to get there, but he wanted it. And now you have It's Always Sunny, which is a totally other sensibility with people, So I love the fact that only on television could you ever do this. Could you reach so many people in Taxi in one generation, and then in a totally other generation, reach so many people like for It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And I'm really fortunate that I was able to be in both of these wonderful shows.
Absolutely. Going back to Taxi for a little
Yes.
bit, if you don't mind. So,
don't mind at all.
talk about, Louis had his own space
Yes.
on the stage. So talk about what that was like as an actor.
Well, that was great. I got a lot of rehearsal time. I was able to go to New York and spend some time with actual dispatchers on 11th Avenue and 57th Street. There was a guy, and he was very feisty and really cool. And I got to ride in cabs. I called people up and I'd say, look, I'm doing this show, and, would you let me hang around a little bit so I could see what was going on? And when you go into anybody's office like that, whether it's an accountant who's been working for a company for a long time, or it's a dispatcher, there's always personal stuff in their office. And the fact that they gave me my cage, which was wonderful, it was really a joy. Second year we made the cage a little bit bigger. Actually got a little bit more real estate on the show. If you remember, the first year there was a bar on the corner, and the second year it was round. It was really cool. I decorated with all my stuff. I sent a picture to Robert De Niro to get him to sign it, and he signed. I put it in there because a taxi driver, and I had trinkets and cups and all kinds of personal belongings. I decorated. It took me like a month or so. I just kept going, bringing stuff in. Things that you wanted around, what you sat on. The kind of pillow you put on that chair, and pictures of your family. I had a lot of pictures of my mother and my father and my sisters in there. And
did you have any sense when you were on Taxi that you were creating such an iconic character?
No. You don't know that. I mean, that you don't know. You go. I knew that when my first entrance, and everybody knew that and that was their writing. I was yelling at everybody and berating everybody from the cage. And the show was about Judd. They wanted to borrow a car to go see Judd's daughter, who was going, and they wanted to drive to Florida. And they wanted to borrow a cab. And the first time I came out of my cage and walked up to Judd, and you saw the height difference, I think the audience, that was like one of the biggest. We had stopped the show because it was like such a incredible gag that they had written. And you had a feeling from that moment, from that first 10 days of rehearsal and doing that pilot. They gave us 2 weeks to do the pilot. We were already on the air for 13. We were picked up for 13, and that's the way they did it in those days. Fred Silverman was at ABC at the time, and he loved Jim, and he loved the show. And the kind of tough thing that happened was that once we got going, he got a job at NBC. And ABC was left with this glorious show that wasn't theirs. It was really Fred's. And Paramount really stuck by us. But the people at ABC who were there at the time, who knows what they were, they had no investment in our show. So they didn't really have it in them to nurture it. So after 4 years on ABC, they canceled us. And it was the year that we all won Emmys. And I went on Saturday Night Live and said, my opening line was, ABC canceled Taxi. And the place went crazy, booing and crazy, But thank goodness, Brandon Tartikoff, may his soul rest in peace, was a major fan of the show. And he was with Fred Silverman over he had taken over from Fred Silverman at NBC. So they picked the show up for 1 year, which was a glorious thing if you know anything about the television business, or at least what it was like then, because there were only 3 networks basically. You had to have at least 100 shows or so to really make syndication work. And where Paramount and the rest of the people who owned the show would have been left high and dry, Brandon Tartikoff picked it up for another show, another season, and we did another 20 shows or something, and that brought us to 115 shows, I think, or 110, and that was a great thing.
Talk about that Saturday Night Live episode.
If I remember correctly, I walked out on stage and said that, well, they all applauded when I came out. go to Center Stage. I love doing Saturday Night Live. And I said, well, ABC canceled Taxi. And they went crazy. And I said, I want to show you the Emmys that we won this year. And I brought everybody on stage, all of the cast.
How hard was that? How did that come
That
together?
was easy to coordinate because everybody loved what we were doing. They loved the show. They loved each other. Everybody. It was a family affair. All the producers were there. The writers were there that night. Everybody came in and flew in on their own or whatever, how they had to do it. And they came to the show.
Did you have a sense at that time where the NBC potentially picking up those conversations weren't taking place?
We were
yet?
canceled.
You were gone.
We
as
were
far as
gone.
you knew.
And then Brooks came to us and said that, that NBC was going to take us for a year. And it was like a rebirth. We were just so excited. And we also knew that it was going to be 1 year.
Oh, so you knew going into it that was it.
That was it.
The end.
So it was like we were all saying goodbye to each other. So no matter what, that was the end. It was going to be a closure. And see, the opposite happened with Rhea's show. Rhea's show, we started in the, top of the, we were getting a 35 share, stuff like that. Rhea's show was number 30. They were 30th when they started. But Tartikoff had faith in the show and the Charles brothers and the whole thing, and they kept it going until it finally caught on. See, it takes that. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. We were just a blip on the radar. John Landgraf really loved the show, And when I came aboard, we were still really struggling to get people to watch the show. I remember the 1 year we were doing a show where there was a lot of girls in the bar. It was like some kind of thing that we were doing. And just as a survey, right, I went around talking to people, in between when we weren't shooting. And I was asking people who had seen the show. The show had been on for a couple of years. And none of the women had ever seen the show. Some of the men saw the show. So if you went to the demographic and you looked at that as a market research, we had a long way to go. And then finally, we clicked in with the college kids big time.
Why do you think that happened?
I think it was people were just digging the comedy. It was the sense of humor, the sense of it, the irreverence of it.
Do you think the Nightman video?
And then what we did was, we did The Nightman Cometh, which was the musical. And that year, we decided to do it on the stage. And we really worked hard to get it on the stage.
Whose idea was that? Do you remember?
Well, I told the story of an actor's strike that happened the first year of Taxi. We had all bought houses, and the actors struck for a really long time. And I tried to get us to go to little theaters around town and do the shows live, do the old shows live. Take the ones that we'd already done and just publicize it to keep people thinking about it. And I told Rob this a while ago, and Rob came up with the idea of doing this Charlie's musical. And the way it originally happened was they had a friend who was going to perform at the Troubadour. And we were going to be the opening act for the friend at the Troubadour. But as soon as the news went out that we were going to do this, the Troubadour sold out in 5 minutes. So we added another night. and the Troubadour sold out in another 5 minutes. So we became the act, and the guy opened for us. And we did The Night Man Cometh. And we invited everybody to come and see it. And it was a powerhouse of like fan base, crazy, wonderful, God love them fans. And we had a ball. And then we started pushing. I said, I'm going to put this thing on it. I'm going to get a budget. I'm going to figure it out. Live Nation figured out. They offered us a certain amount of money. And we put it together ourselves and took it on the road. 6 cities, 7 shows. Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Seattle, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. 2 shows in Philly, of course, because we sold that first show out in 10 minutes or something. And the network invited everybody to see it. And before we were finished, because the fans were rabid, I mean, people dressing up in Green Man and this, that, and the other thing, they all knew the show. They knew the lines. It was like the Rocky Horror Picture Show, thank God. And before we finished that, they were talking about syndication. So television opened up to us. And thank goodness Comedy Central was there. They bought our syndication rights. John Landgraf, who stuck by the show, if it wasn't for him sticking by the show, we would have never gotten to that because nobody wanted the show to stay on. It was like, I'm saying like a blip, but he wanted to stick with it and stay with it, and he did. And that's what it takes, really, I think.
How do you think, you mentioned earlier that on Taxi, the first episode with the words holy crap in it, and now on Philadelphia, you kind of can get away with anything. How do you think TV has evolved to allow that to happen?
Well, no, you have to like expand with the universe. I mean, it's all the Big Bang, right? We're all growing, we're evolving, we're all growing, right? We're all growing in a kind of a like, what do you get upset when somebody says dick? That's a man's name. Oh, it's also a penis. When somebody says, I mean, if it's gonna upset you, don't come over here. Don't watch it. So people are doing that now. There's 2 guys are kissing on stage. You don't like it? I mean, this is the way it is. The world is changing. Everything is going, and it gets to a point, you know what I mean, where you're not hurting anybody. You're not really contaminating anybody. You're like living. You're being free. It's freedom. And I think it's a great thing. It's a really wonderful thing. It's slow starting, and people have to get with it. And when they understand that, they can still have their children grow up and be fine citizens and still have heard the word fuck, and they can be, have families and they, and they could still, what's the, yeah, anyway. So once you understand that, I think everything is, I think television's a great. I just love being on it and having it expand the way it's expanding and.
And are you feeling like the new media you mentioned earlier, the internet?
I think all that is going to be part of it. Because we're exponentially moving in this, like, kind of, I read a book years ago called Future Shock. That was, like, in the 70s. And that's what the guy was talking about. And now it's all, everything is happening so fast. Everything is getting more powerful. It's getting smaller. All the internet, all the components. I have my phone in my pocket that you like would have to have a computer the size of this room to have that much information in when it all started 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, whatever it was, and it's happening quicker and quicker and quicker to the point where, I believe that one day, any wall will be a television. That's going to be like, easy. We'll be able to project television from our third eye, maybe.
Absolutely. You mentioned a little while ago your Emmy, and
Yes.
everybody on Taxi's
Yes.
Emmys. So talk about that. You were
Okay.
nominated several times for Taxi, and then you won one award. So what did it mean to you to win an
Well,
Emmy?
it's really fun to win an Emmy. It's a really cool recognition of your work by your peers and all of that. Rhea has won 4 of them. I won 1. But I am, according to the television critics, the icon. So, don't mess with me. You know what I mean? She's won 4 Emmys. It's fun. It was fun to go to the show. It was fun to be part of it. I remember Chris Lloyd won, and he sent the Seek up to get it. It's like copying Brando. I didn't know what the hell it was when we first got, when somebody says you're nominated for an Emmy. I said, really? What is that? And then, it's good. Celebrate the show. I mean, I wish that Sonny would get nominated for, not personally, but I would love people to recognize the fact that It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is one of the best shows on television today. But like I say, sometimes it's better to be under the radar.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think that Rob and Glenn and Charlie and Caitlin, and especially Rob and Glenn and Charlie, who write, produce, and act in the show, there ought to be some hat tip to those guys, because the other thing is television. Okay, how hard it is to get a TV show on the air. I mean, these guys made this show for $75 with a
Talk about
camcorder.
Tell
They
them.
they had the irreverent idea of going over to borrow something at somebody's house, finding out their friend had cancer, and all they really wanted was the thing, which is what they do now. Yeah, you got cancer. Oh yeah, but listen, do you have that pot holder thing that we wanted? I can't even remember what it was. And they shot it with a camcorder. You do my side, I do your side, and then Landgraf bought it. It cost them a couple of $100, all counting the pizza and everything, whatever it was. That's television, man. That's like Sarnoff, and that's like Marconi, and that's like that's Menlo Park, baby. That's like really the balls of it. That's like the nitty gritty of it. That's like rolling the dice. And now it's like, it's going to be our 7th season starts in September. We picked up for 2 more seasons. Who knows what the hell we can do with this show, because we can keep just having fun with it. I mean,
Absolutely. We need to change tapes.
oh, okay.
Sorry to